Yo, welcome back guys. So I got a lot of comments in the previous video regarding other things Thom Yorke does. What about X? What about Y? I want to cover that in this video, go into some more specifics. 'Cause I still want you, even... If you want deep singing knowledge that you'll get nowhere else, then please do subscribe, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. So we're going to focus in on there. He tends to lean in a little bit more in this song, and it gives us a sense of a little bit more space in terms of what he's doing. Just want to give some extra thoughts about him as a singer, and based on some of the comments that I've read. So the reason that Thom Yorke is so endearing and people are so drawn to him, and the point I was trying to get across in the previous video and this video, is that the skills that he has in terms of compression adjustment are super nuanced and super detailed, and whilst he doesn't necessarily sing that high, he doesn't necessarily sing that powerfully, which is typically what you kind of people that frequent these types of channels, those are the two things. Can you sing super high? Can you sing super powerful? If you can't, we're going to write you off, essentially, is a lot of the argument. Now I'm simplifying it, but broadly speaking, that's what it comes down to. Now, Thom Yorke doesn't have those qualities, and the question I'd ask these types of people out there is this: why do people want to listen to him? Why are people so drawn to him as a singer? And that's what I'm seeking to answer in the first video and this video. And he's a great example of why. That's the thing I'm trying to get across. Nuanced compression skills, nuanced closure skills are so key to professional singers and so lacking in this community in terms of the type of knowledge that people like myself are putting out there. So I'm trying to magnify, I'm trying to really focus in on this particular issue, and he just happens to be a very good example of it. Now, let's go into some of the specifics of what he's doing in this particular song. Right, so let's listen to where he starts this. What closure level is he starting on? Okay, so what I'm hearing through there is very even compression through the whole phrase, and the start point is in, and then he takes that right the way through the phrase. Have a listen. Yeah, there's no adjustment at all. In pitch dark, I go walking in the landscape. Broken branches strip me as I speak. Yeah, have a listen. So the second line in this verse, it's a little bit more squeeze. You hear how he opens up on branches, and you hear you hear squeeze in there, just a smidge. Yeah, as he comes down to speak, speak. He's really saying spake. I spake. Yeah, but the point is, as he comes down to that end of that line, he backs off that closure. So he squeezes in and out on this second line, whereas on the first line, the compression's completely even. Just to remind you. It's more even. Listen to the pressure build and release on the second line. Yeah, it's just a smidge now. It's just a smidge. We will hear him lean in more in a moment. But I've got to get you aware of just how small these adjustments are that these artists are making. Just 'cause you feel it doesn't mean it's there. Just 'cause you feel it doesn't mean it's there. Now that's pretty even through that chorus bit or bridge bit, however you want to describe the section. I don't know what it's called. One thing I noticed though is this. Thom Yorke has a habit of, as he comes down, and this is, when I say habit, I'm not using that with a negative connotation, I'm just saying it as it is. Typically what he does is, as he comes down in range, he will back off some of the closure to just let the sound like settle down. So he's often thinking in subtle ways, just as we covered in Ingenue, is that he's putting a little bit of pressure to accentuate some part of the phrase, and then he's backing off as he comes down, and it's usually biased towards the higher notes in the phrase. So as the notes ascend in pitch, there's a little bit more sense of and then as he comes back, there's a little more sense of release in the closure, if we're talking broadly. Now, what he does in that particular section is mostly it's pretty even, and on it's there on both ends of the lines, he will just kind of ease off the pressure just a smidge to let the phrase settle. Now let's listen to what he does in the next verse. Yeah. So we see the same thing happening, but singing you, he's squeezing more than the first two times we've been through this part of the song. Listen again. So really we're taking the same concept as the first two verses, and we are putting the stakes up each time. The first time he went through this, compression was even pretty much. Second time, you felt a little bit of pressure just towards the top. Now third time you're feeling a little bit more pressure, so each time he's up in the ante just a little bit. It helps the song grow and lead somewhere. Let's give you a demo. There's always a siren singing you to shipwreck. So on this singing, 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 you hear it. You hear that squeeze at the top. You hear that squeeze at the top and you hear it backing off as I come down. That's exactly what he's doing. Listen again. Oh, okay. Now we hear it. Now we hear more compression. Now keep in mind it's taken us 4 times round that verse to build into that amount of closure. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of why is Thom Yorke such a popular singer. Listen, that is when he starts compressing more fully. Even at the start. Yeah? There. Steer away, steer away. He's much more there now, all of a sudden. yeah, on walking, we'd be walking. A lot more squeeze there all of a sudden. Listen again. Steer away from the rocks, we'd be a walking disaster. And again, we see the same broad concept being applied. But it's magnified. This time he squeezes more. Backing off at the bottom again. So when we talk about Thom Yorke and nuanced closure skills, he is so good at it. Yeah, we've demonstrated it very clearly in this video. Let's just carry on because there's another couple of examples. I'm going to do the whole of this song. I don't need to because a lot of it is repeating the same themes. But this is where I wanted to get to show you guys, okay, he does compress more. He does lean in more in certain songs.
Just 'cause you feel it.
Just 'cause you feel it doesn't mean it's said. So he's kind of flipping up a little bit, playing around with the melody, but I don't really necessarily want to focus in on this video. We covered some of that in the last video. I want to see where he's leaning in more. We'll see that in a second. Yeah, right there. 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 Something like that. You get the idea though. He goes immediately to that's where he's going on there. See, he's squeezing more and more and more. So this is an example of him taking this basic principle further in this song and this approach. And just like Ingenue, it really does helps to highlight and really bring attention to this skill in singing that is not necessarily spoken about often enough, in my view, and is something that professional singers are relying on day in, day out. Now, when you start using these ideas and working at them, I'm not trying to necessarily get you to sound like Thom Yorke. The point is this type of pressure and squeeze that I go on and on about, and I demonstrate here, this is the type of thing you've got to discover, and you've got to be able to isolate from your stylistic approach. And what I mean by that is you might be singing gospel, you might be singing jazz, you might be singing pop, you might be singing alternative music, you might be singing whatever. The goal is, though, is to answer this question: how am I going to add tension to this part of the lyric? How am I going to build up pressure or a sense of anticipation from the audience? And this type of squeeze, learning this type of squeeze is universal across all styles. It will apply. Now, the details are obviously different across styles, but this skill I'm talking about here is not at all relative to any specific style. It's a universal skill that all singers need to master if they want to sound good, if they want to draw an audience in, if they want to really connect with people. You have to learn to squeeze in this way. I'm going to say it again. You have to learn to squeeze in this way. There is no way around it. There's no way around it. You've just got to learn it, regardless of the style. And I'm kind of just hammering this home and really making sure that I emphasize this a lot at the end of this video. If you've made it this far, you may be one of the few. You may be one of the lucky few who's got the work ethic, who's got the ability to apply themselves over a long period of time, and who's got the real deep desire and urge to get good at this. If you're one of these people, pay attention to this content and pay attention to the type of information that I'm putting out there, because it's going to separate you from the herd relatively quickly. It's going to help you to focus on the right things that are really going to make a difference, and it's going to help you to avoid the pitfalls and the potholes that so many learning singers on YouTube are falling into when they focus on high detail, high level stylistic stuff, and they avoid and miss the broad basic skills that I cover so often. Have a good day, guys, and I'll see you in a bit. Take care. Bye.